Okay, so we're so pleased today to have Angelo Roberts. He is the founder and CEO of Offsource Incorporated. He's also host of the Ramblings podcast, which I'm sure he'll talk more about, we hope. And he's in the process of building a community of shareable employees for small business owners. And today, Angelo is going to be talking about the future of work. Here you go. Over to you, Angelo.
Hey everyone, thank you so much for joining me today for our conversation.
Hi.
As you all know, I'm the owner
Book.
and founder of Offsource, as Tina
No,
mentioned.
because I wouldn't pay her.
Sorry, go
Um,
ahead.
Oh, thank you. So yes, so one of the things that I really decided, the reason I wanted to talk about the future of work is because a lot of us are here for, to grow our business. We're here to make connections. We're here to meet other people. We're here to send referrals, get referrals. However, the ultimate thing that we would really like to do is grow our business. And so the extent in which we'd like to grow our business is going to be very important, especially as the future of work. And one of the reasons that I think that it's very important is because a lot of us have transitioned into being business owners. We weren't necessarily business owners from the very, very beginning. And so one of the big things that I've noticed or seen in terms of, business and how people are transitioning into being business owners, especially over the past 2 years because of the pandemic, we have this preconceived notion and idea of what business is, right? We grew up where when we had jobs when we were younger, we saw what bosses did and we kind of just emulate that. However, a lot of things, especially over the past 2 years, have greatly changed. And so before I really get into anything, I do want to set a very much preface. This is going to be very much for people who would like to scale their business. There is a very strong power in staying small. However, in terms of hiring future of work, this is very, very much towards those who'd like to grow a very, very large business, or at least something medium where you're going to have a couple of employees and things of that nature. And the reason that I say that is because you have to know where you'd like to end up. How large do you want your business to be? Because that's going to determine a lot of the decisions you make. That determines when you choose to hire. That determines what position you're going to choose to hire for. That's going to determine how you go about doing that hiring. A lot of different things, right? And so if you're someone who's looking to just, who's really comfortable where they're at, they're not looking to take on much more responsibility, because that is a very large thing. Taking on, a full-time employee or even a very large part-time employee is going to mean that you're responsible for a portion, if not full part of their life. And so having that responsibility and just, that back and forth can be extremely, a lot of pressure. And so I just want to make sure that I'm prefacing by saying this is going to be for people that are really wanting to scale or hit a particular point that you're going to need employees. So one of the big things is why hiring is important, because any company needs employees. If you look at the top Fortune, any Fortune 500 company for that matter, they all have employees. So you have a lot of people are thinking that, oh, I would like to grow, I just don't want to have to deal with employees. That is an unrealistic goal. As you scale and as you grow and as you have to hire, you have to deal with these employees. You're always going to have employee number one, and that is going to be extremely hard. It's going to be harder if you're trying to bring someone in and, you think that they're going to immediately know exactly what to do and just kind of hit the ground running and be a duplicate of you. They don't own your business. You do. And so you can't really expect them to have the exact same will, the exact same drive as you do. And so that's going to mean how important is hiring to you? How important is growing to a certain point to you? Now, I always say that hiring is absolutely worth it. A lot of people can become, penny pinchers or hugging the cash register, as I like to say it, because that is an expense. Wages are an expense, and labor is going to be your largest expense usually in any form of business. And so because of that, a lot of owners can become very wary on it. And so I just would like to kind of talk about alleviate some of those reasons on what that is. And a lot of those issues, especially today, are coming from the current state of hiring. There's this entire kind of notion right now with a lot of people worrying about, what is a good employee? Are they going to leave? How do I really get them to work extremely hard? There's been a lot of people worrying about, how they're going to go about this hiring and what it's like. So I want to take a quick moment to really talk about what the current state of hiring and what the current state of work is kind of looking like. And the very large buzzword that a lot of people are hearing lately is the Great Resignation. Now, the Great Resignation is going to be combination of a couple of different things. One of the very largest things is because of the pandemic, people have been able to really see what is important to them. This wasn't, necessarily like the 2008 financial disaster. This was something medical. This is something that hit close to home, that no matter what particular state you were in, no matter what kind of position you were in, no matter where you were affected from the coronavirus. And so that really puts things into perspective on what's important. How important is my health? How important is my time that I spend with my family? And so that means that you're going to want to have a job or a career that balances that ability for you to say, yes, I am now feeling like I'm spending my time with my family, but also in terms of growing my career. And so people have a lot of options. People have more options than ever before. And that's really because of the internet. A lot like pre 2000, right? There was a lot more in-person jobs, labor where it was a physical thing. However, today it's a lot more remote. And so because of that, people have the ability to have a much more healthy life work balance. And so because of that, a lot of older business owners and people that have been in business for 20 and 30 years are having a little bit of a problem adjusting, right? They're going to have these same implementations that they had in 2005. And so a earlier generation, they were rubbing elbows. There was a lot of friction between the employee and the employer, and it was just not necessarily friendly or welcoming. As I had mentioned, that pandemic has really shown people that dealing with things like that are not worth it. And so the current state of hiring has really been a buildup over the past 20 years, coupled with the pandemic and an increase in technology. And so that has to play a very, very, very important role when you're thinking about hiring, because it's what are you looking for? What are your ideals in hiring? Remember when I talked about, the previous state of work and how people have these preconceived notions as they're getting into business. These preconceived notions of what you're used to in business are going out the window, and implementing those are actually going to set you back further than you think. Think about it, right? In 2000, you had to go to the office because remote work was extremely hard. There was no Slack, there was no Facebook, there was I don't think Zoom. I think Skype didn't even necessarily exist at that time. So having remote work was a lot harder. However, fast forward till 2015, where social media is a very large topic, where Zoom is very much prevalent, where social media is a very large presence and an important factor in your business. That means you're going to have to adjust how things are. Back in the day, employees were a lot more quiet. They were a lot more heads down, focused on work. Now they're going to be more outspoken, and that's because of social media. Everyone now has a voice, right? The voice doesn't belong to just the company. The voice doesn't just belong to the person who has the ability to pay for TV time or radio time. It's really gravitated towards everyone. And so your strategy, your thought process, and how you deal with your employees, how you go about hiring, and even how much you're offering in regards to wages are going to play a very, very crucial role in your actual business strategy as you're trying to scale. A quick Google search will actually show you that the cost of hiring currently for a full-time employee is somewhere between $3,000 to $5,000, and that's going to be the cost of actually going out and hiring, going out and training, incubating, doing all of these different methods to have a full working employee with wages plus benefits and things of that nature. Which brings me to another point of inflation. Another big thing is inflation. A lot of owners, depending on what your work is, especially if you're in like say construction or a very hard manual labor environment, that work has now become less and less valuable to the actual day-to-day person, right? So we would want more money to do something that is going to be remedial or mundane, such as laying bricks and things of that nature. Why? Because it's something that takes up a lot of time. Whereas if I could do the exact same work for, the exact, if I could do less work for the exact same pay, why would I not take that? That means that wages have not kept up with the price of inflation. Wages have also not kept up with the cost of living. So if I, as someone who would work at McDonald's, am going to make the exact same wage as someone who is working in construction, as going to work in a very high powered office that's fast paced, that requires me to do a lot of scheduling and critical thinking, why would I not just take, the easier paying job? So if you're someone who's in construction, if you're someone that has a lot more labor intensive work, it's going to require a little bit more, budget. So a lot of these things are going to be very crucial, as I had mentioned, to your hiring strategy, to how you go about your post hiring strategy and onboarding and retention, right? We all know it's easier to keep the person than have to bring someone else on. And so having a continuous churn is going to be more expensive than thoroughly putting in the time to evaluate your standards, evaluate what you're looking for from an employee, and then making the changes to be able to adjust to the current job and labor market. Now that we've kind of talked about, why it's important to hire, what the current state is, let's talk about what can we do in the future of work to kind of alleviate a lot of these kind of problems. One of the big ones is remote work. Remote work is going to be a big answer for a lot of people. However, it's going to be one of the hardest. Going back to that preconceived notion, as I had mentioned, a lot of people feel that they have to have their employee directly in the office. And that's going to be extremely hard for a lot of people because they've shown and we've seen that you don't need to be in the office. And so that's why we're seeing a very hard pushback against people wanting to come back versus working remote. Some jobs have lost as much as 30 to 40% of their entire workforce by just saying that we have to come back to the office. And so you have to think about what it is that you're hiring for. How well do you really need this person to be in your office or in your presence? Is it because you really would like to think that that does better work, or because you feel that you have to have that oversight on them? And so going back to the preconceived notions, this can hinder your business because now you're going to expect your employees to do things that they're not necessarily comfortable doing, and that because of the current state of hiring, they don't have to do. Someone can make easily $2,000 a month in social media, in podcasting, in something online. They have a lot of options. So what makes them want to work at your business? We have to think of it as that. I always like to say, I work for my employees don't work for me, which is a very new mindset. However, it's one that I always push people to have, because think about that. If you hired 10 people and they were an amazing 10 people, and then they all of a sudden decided to up and leave, they just said, we're going to leave, you would be without a business. Honestly, you can't handle the work of 10 people on your own because you've scaled to that amount of people. And so it's going to be hard to maintain that level of work without any employees. And so employees are going to be the life and bread of your business, which is why remote work is going to be one of the very large answers. That also is going to bring international hiring. Now, I know I don't have much time left, so I'm only going to briefly touch on this, but international hiring is going to be an offshoot of remote work. A lot of these developing countries that speak very, very good English don't have the same economic standpoint as America. And so you'll be able to find the exact same work, the exact same level of skill, but for a much more reduced price. But it's not going to last long, because as a lot more companies start to catch on to this, they're now going to be doing that. The largest kind of barrier you might face is going to be the language barrier. So I will preface that. However, think about this. This person is able to complete the work that you assign them, speak your language. Obviously, there's going to be a small barrier, but then speak an entire another language. I don't think anyone on the call speaks two languages. Correct me if I'm wrong. However, that is a skill set that, would be very, very beneficial to your business. Now, imagine if you were able to handle so many more different languages and how much more comfortable your clients would feel with you. And so these are just some of the things I ask people to keep in mind when they're thinking about hiring, when they're thinking about going through their application process, and what they're expecting of their employees as they start bringing people on. And so, as I know, my time is now up. So I would like to say, I hope that you all very much consider your hiring strategy and what you really expect from your employees, depending on what you're looking for in the growth of your business. And so if you have any questions, I will be available for, a one-on-one, or if you'd like to just learn more about how there's alternative ways to keep hiring low, feel free to inbox me, or my information will be in the chat. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank
Awesome.
you, Angelo. Thank you so much.
Thanks,
Can
Angelo.
you also just tell us quickly about your podcast?
Absolutely. So I am the host of The Ramblings. The Ramblings is a podcast for entrepreneurs by entrepreneurs in the real. So a lot of Master Networks members have been up there, but the reason we have the podcast is to showcase the underrepresented entrepreneur. Now, considering that this is the tri-state areas, people being from New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut, think about where you get your hair done, where you get your gas. If you play the lottery, where you get your lottery tickets. If you're a smoker, where you get your cigarettes from, where you get your clothes from. All of these people are business owners, and we pass by them every day. A lot of times when we go into that gas station, that person at the register is the owner. And so we overlook these people. And why? Because we don't see them on these podcasts. We don't see them as these millionaires and things of that nature. And so I just try to bring the smaller business owner into light, because that's what the average business owner looks like. And so we want to see, what are people that are close to you doing in terms of growing their business, and maybe that they can share some of their success strategies with you.
Great. And a little, just 1 minute about your off source. What is that?
So off-source, I will say, is your alternative hiring method. Off-source is your dedicated team of virtual assistants that help bridge your office work from to do to done. So what we do is we handle all things in your back office, like admin, bookkeeping, social media, graphic design, web design, the entire nine. If it's on a computer, we're able to handle it. And so what we really, really say is that we give owners their time back with this alternative hiring, if you will, because we are your team of VAs, and it's everything that you might need in a business service, but for one affordable low price.
Great. Thank you so much. Just wanted to make sure that we